Supporting the asylum housing plan is the Scottish Labour MP Chris Murray. Chris Murray, you have criticised private firms from profiting from hundreds of millions of pounds from asylum seekers in hotels, and you've urged the Home Office to get a grip. Is this getting a grip?
Yeah, well, the main thing is that the asylum system that we've got now that was inherited from the Conservative government is a disaster. It has been disastrous for local communities who have seen us hotels popping up in their areas and putting pressure on local services. It's been disastrous actually for asylum seekers themselves, but most importantly, it's cost the taxpayer billions of pounds, which have mainly gone in profits to these private companies. So in getting a grip on this, the Home Office has to look at a full range of alternative accommodation for asylum seekers that's better for communities, better for asylum seekers, and doesn't cost as much the public purse, which is what's so egregious about the current situation we inherited from the Conservatives.
So is this going to be good for the community in Inverness?
Well, it could be, you know, I mean, the thing about this is if you can put proper services in place, and because the thing about hotels is asylum seekers just have nowhere to go, and so they hang out in the street around, and that can be quite intimidating for a local community.
So what's going to be different with this? What's going to be different with this?
Well, if you can put in place services that are there for the asylum seekers, then they won't put the same pressure on local services. And if you work with the local authority, and if you work with local charities, you can make that work. You know, I've seen evidence of that around the country when, as part of the Home Affairs Committee, I've visited different asylum accommodation sites. The issue that we have right now is it's all in the hand of private providers, and their incentive is to maximise their profits, not worry about the impact on asylum seekers or worry about on the impact of a local community. And we can see local communities are really angry about the way it's being done to their communities.
OK, well, you spoke about in consultation with local communities and working with local communities. To what degree were Highland Council consulted on this? Because they say they weren't.
Well, so the thing in the last regime, the way they did it was they wouldn't even tell a local authority when a hotel had been opened in their area. You know, hotels would find out, councils would find out about this second, third hand. That's not the way the Home Office are now doing it. The Home Office is currently looking at a range of different options. We're nowhere near the opening stage yet. So obviously that process, working with the local authority, working with local stakeholders, community groups, charities, churches, that is what you've got to do before you open something. And, you know, it hasn't opened yet at all. We're nowhere near that yet.
When will it open?
I have no idea. I mean, the Home Office is only beginning to look at that. I don't even know if that is known yet. But
are we talking weeks, months, years?
It's unknown. I can't imagine it'll be imminently. But the point about this is the Home Office needs to get a grip on the system, because that's what didn't happen under the last government. You get a grip on it, you work strategically, you minimise costs, and the other important thing is as well, you clear the asylum backlog so that those who've got a right to stay here move on into private accommodation that they pay for themselves. Those who don't have a right to stay here are removed, because what we have had is that system has just completely broken down.
You speak about, OK, it isn't open yet, and there'll be further consultations with the local councils and local communities, but the Highland Council specifically say that given the scale of the proposals, Inverness is a relatively small community, they say, but the potential impact could be massive. Doesn't matter what services you put in. If you're putting a lot of asylum seekers into Inverness, that's going to have an impact, clearly.
Well, we'll have an impact, but the point is local government, central government, third sector organisations, if you can get them working together to deal with the challenges that impact creates, you will really do a lot to mitigate it. What we've found across the country is that because that work wasn't being done, because it was completely disjointed, one, the impact on local communities was really bad, and two, costs spiralled. Actually, you know, if Highland Council are saying this creates challenges for us, we've got to work with Highland Council to mitigate those challenges.
So you'll guarantee that you'll do that? You'll guarantee that you'll do that? The Home Office will work with Highland Council?
Well, they absolutely should. And as a member of the Home Affairs Committee, I will be pushing, and have been pushing very strongly, to ensure that happens. And every undertaking the government has given has suggested we will be going into that direction and not relapsing to the completely failed way of doing it.
You have asked
under the Tories.
You've asked about criminal activity by asylum seekers in hotel accommodation. What guarantee that won't happen in military accommodation?
Well, one of the advantages of military sites is that you can have a lot more sort of resources in one place. So you can have proper safeguarding. Actually, one of the big findings of the Home Affairs Committee's report that we released yesterday was safeguarding in hotels was of asylum seekers themselves, as well as for the local community, had huge flaws. So actually, there are advantages to large sites, and I have visited large sites in England to see how they operate, and you can put in place much more structured resources to deal with those kind of issues like criminality or just not obeying by the terms of being an asylum seeker.
We've spoken about the